Boa tarde a todos, meu nome é Elisa Nolli, eu sou coordenadora de desenvolvimento de negócios na Câmara de Comércio Brasil-Canadá e é um prazer ter todos vocês aqui conosco nesta tarde. Eu gostaria de convidar o nosso coordenador Fernando Marques para o discurso oficial de abertura.
Obrigado, Elisa. Muito boa tarde a todos. Sejam bem-vindos. Meu nome é Fernando Marques, sou vice-presidente de Comércio Exterior da Câmara de Comércio Brasil-Canadá e gostaria de dar boas-vindas a todos os participantes e palestrantes que se encontram aqui conosco. O Canadá Day CCBC Online Festival é uma iniciativa da CCBC em parceria com a Air Canada e conta com o apoio de diversas entidades brasileiras e canadenses. Hoje apresentaremos 2 painéis focados nas oportunidades de inovação, tecnologia e empreendedorismo no setor agrícola, localizados na região de Fraser Valley e Winnipeg. Convido vocês a visitarem também o site oficial do nosso festival, onde compartilhamos mais de 200 conteúdos culturais exclusivos para download gratuito. Mais uma vez, em nome da CCBC, gostaria de agradecer a todos pela participação e volto a palavra para a Elisa Cristina, nossa coordenadora de desenvolvimento de negócios da Câmara de Comércio Brasil-Canadá. Elisa, é com você. Muito boa sorte e obrigado.
Obrigada, Fernanda. É sempre um prazer contar com você aqui com a gente. Só gostaria de avisar que este painel terá tradução simultânea, então basta você clicar no ícone de tradução. Bom, para iniciar as nossas apresentações do dia, eu gostaria de convidar o Vern May, gerente de desenvolvimento econômico na City of Abbotsford, que falará sobre a região de Fraser Valley, da Colúmbia Britânica, como um destino para inovação em Agritech. Vern, the stage is yours.
Hello, I'm very happy to be joining you today. Very often when we think about Canada and the international face of Canada, that's often very limited to Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver as 3 of our major centers. And certainly that is a great start, a great introduction to Canada, but it's just the tip of the iceberg, especially when we start looking at food and food production. And so today I'm going to be sharing with you one of the regions in the country that is really leading the charge on the future of food and how we're going to feed the population over the next 50 years. So I'd like to present with you Feeding the Future, the ag tech and agriculture opportunities that exist in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia. We know in Canada, we've been tasked with some pretty mighty challenges. Our ag sector, has been directly requested to look at how do we serve the global need to feed the world, especially with a mounting global population and a variety of challenges. So over the past decade in particular, we have had increased attention to concerns around food security. There's also been extensive exploration now into the plant protein industry. And we've also seen a number of innovations of the circular economy related to agriculture. So how do we take those agricultural byproducts that were traditionally considered waste and turn them into something productive, whether it is, again, a byproduct of food that can be used for food, or now how do we convert that to energy that can be used to support the food sector? And then there's also the growing concerns as we address the concerns around climate change and what impact that's going to have on food production. So those are some of the bit of the context of what we're dealing with in terms of the Canadian ag sector. I'd like to give a little bit of a spotlight on the region because the Fraser Valley, many of the delegates may not be familiar with it. If you look at this screen here, what you can see to your far right, your far left, is the city of Vancouver. And where we're located in Abbotsford is directly in the south center of the map in the Fraser Valley. Very mountainous region, as you can see. Where we're located historically used to be all water. And then during colonization, they found ways to reroute the rivers effectively. And so as a result, we have this very fertile land. And as you can see by the amount of green, light green and yellow on that map, a lot of that is agricultural producing. In the Fraser Valley, 75% of our land is zoned agricultural. In terms of, when we talk about the Fraser Valley, there are a few communities involved in that: Chilliwack, Abbotsford, Langley, Maple Ridge, and Mission. And each of those has seen a significant growth in their ag sector. We've always been food producing, but now, as particularly as industrial land is at a premium in Vancouver, and the costs are really expensive to operate in the metropolitan area, we're seeing a lot more investment, both domestically and internationally, in the valley. And directly at the bottom of this map, right where that map cuts off, is the international boundary to the United States. So we have, within that region of the map, 8 border crossings, 8 land border crossings to the United States. Something that I think is really unique that people may not be aware of this area of Canada is the cultural diversity. In the city of Abbotsford itself, where I'm based, 53 different languages are spoken. 35% of our population is South Asian by descent, first or second generation, new Canadians. So we have a great cultural diversity in the community, which really enriches the experience here in the Fraser Valley. In terms of Canada's positioning, many of the companies that look at Canada are really looking at how do we break into the North American market, and maybe they start their exploration with the United States, recognizing that there's 350 million people in the United States, potential consumers. And then as they start to dig deeper, they find out that the opportunities in Canada become very, very attractive. Especially with some of the political uncertainty that we've seen in the United States over the past few years, there's been a lot more interest to bring industries into Canada, which is very politically stable. In addition to that, the labor cost benefits of Canada versus the US represent about a 30% savings right off the bat. And one thing that is really opportune in terms of Canada's positioning for investment and trade is our positive trade relationships, both with the United States, which of course is our primary business partner in terms of trade and export. But we've also got comprehensive agreements that have been signed in recent years with the European Union, and also the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which has 34 different countries involved with that. So to create a global hub for your business in Canada makes a lot of sense if you're looking at global expansion of your brand and distribution of your products. In terms of skilled labor in our region, we're blessed to have a number of post-secondary schools and institutions that are available, and each with a different specialty. Right here in the Fraser Valley, we have our own University of the Fraser Valley, which has a heavy focus on agriculture, but we also have a number of colleges and universities, as you see listed here, and these are just 6 of more than 20 colleges and schools that are available in the region. So skilled workforce, being one of the top challenges that's faced by site selectors in all industries around the world, is something that we take very seriously. And we're working even at a high school level to ensure that students that are at the course selection stage of their career, when they're 14 and 15 years old and being asked now to select the school classes that will determine their career direction, that they're aware of some of the emerging careers, so that they know that when they complete their education, that there are jobs for them here and they don't have to relocate. And so those those relationships at a high school level and also at a post-secondary level, where we have an opportunity, particularly with the University of the Fraser Valley, to influence content. Post-secondary really wants to ensure that what they're delivering is relevant to the needs of industry. And as a result, there is opportunities for business to influence, course content to ensure that the workers that are being released into the workforce are going to have directly relevant skills to their needs. While we're going to focus a lot on agriculture today as part of this session, I think it's really important to identify some of the other key sectors in the region. Aerospace is a major one. We have the Vancouver International Airport and also the Abbotsford International Airport. And each of those is supported by a cluster of aerospace activities, from manufacturing to aerospace support and a number of related direct and indirect industries. Agriculture is a major sector for us, and we'll be focusing on that today. Manufacturing, technology, healthcare, retail and professional careers, also very highly rated, and healthcare, probably per capita in this region, healthcare services and opportunities for employment eclipse other areas of the country. So it's always really important for us to share that with anyone who's unfamiliar with our region. But agriculture really is the focal point. Consider that image that I shared earlier of the region. The majority of that soil in the valley is very fertile, high value soil. And roughly 70% of that land is dedicated under provincial protection specifically for agriculture and cannot be converted. So for companies that are looking to come in with an agricultural endeavor, there is really little risk of that land ever being converted to another zoning or another use. So it wouldn't be converted to industrial or commercial because we recognize the value of that land. And in addition to what's grown in the ground, the ag sector is now attracting the value-added processing to take that raw product, like what you see here is strawberries. And certainly we do export a lot of berries from the region, strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, etc. But now taking a look at how do we create a product, that makes the most value out of that. And so we have a lot of wineries and breweries that are now taking this raw product and turning it into a higher value output. And we're seeing the same thing as well with the livestock sector. So a lot of innovation in particularly beef, dairy, and poultry. And I'll be sharing more information on that as we get deeper into the presentation. Now we'll take a deep dive into what we're talking about with the agricultural industry. So locally here in Abbotsford in the Fraser Valley, the sector supports more than 16,000 jobs. The annual farm gate sales are over 990 million. Those are just the most recent stats that are available. The agribusiness sector is a $1.4 billion industry. And for the Fraser Valley, the farm gate receipts here exceed all other top producing areas in North America, including Ontario's Niagara region, which is often very highly promoted because of its proximity to Toronto, and California's Fresno Valley, which of course is very famous, particularly for grape production. So that gives you a bit of a context of what we're talking about with Fraser Valley's ag sector. But why Fraser Valley for ag? I think our climate, in terms of the primary agricultural areas in the Fraser Valley Regional District, characterized by mild winters and warm summers. I think that when you think of Canada, often because of our northern climate, there is a stereotype of those deep 6-foot snowbanks. And certainly that's more common when you go east of the Rocky Mountains. Here we may have 12 snow days in an entire year. Temperatures are consistently mild, where we only really have 3 seasons of the year. We have summer, like today where it's plus 41 degrees outside Celsius, spring and fall, but we really don't get a winter like we would, like you may have seen, through television and movies and other media that are more representative of Canada. Certainly there are no igloos here in the Fraser Valley. And as a result, the region has one of the longest frost-free periods in Canada, which makes it very attractive for agriculture, creating a longer growing season. And that is certainly a strong advantage for us here. To give you an idea of some of the types of companies that we have operating in this space, we've got a number of different specialties under the umbrella of agriculture. So I'm just going to share with you some of the exciting things that they're involved with. We're going to start with companies that are dealing with creating ideal conditions for growth. So even though we have a very long growing season as it is with our mild climate, there are companies that are working to ensure that we can keep growing every day of the year, year round, and are doing some really exciting things. One of those companies is BW Global. And BW Global has a goal to be able to grow any food in any climate, anywhere in the world. And so they have done a lot of innovation with their greenhouse technology, where they're testing it in all kinds of climates, including the Arctic, where typically there is no agricultural growth. All of the food needs to be imported because of the condition of the terrain and the shortness of the growing season. But even moving into areas that are hurricane prone to ensure that their infrastructure can withstand the force of a Category 5 hurricane. They develop 100% enclosed environments to dramatically lower water consumption in greenhouses. In areas where water availability is a significant issue, such as the Middle East and other drought-stricken areas like California, they can recapture both the transpired and evaporated water within the greenhouse. And this is considered to be revolutionary in dramatically changing the operational requirements for commercial greenhouses. This technology not only replicates a true water cycle in the environment, it is unprecedented in controlled environment for agriculture. So controlling humidity, outstanding pest exclusion, retaining energy, ultimate crop protection, and complete carbon dioxide retention is something that they're really focused on. Artec's Barn Solutions, their headquarters are right here in Abbotsford, and they are, tout themselves as the premier global technology solutions provider for environmental systems in agricultural facilities. They're focused on animal well-being as the foundation for their agricultural success, while strengthening their capabilities to impact agricultural operational performance through connected technologies. So really, you're looking at, we've certainly heard of the technology around smart home. They're looking at smart barn. So they're looking at, technology focused on cow comfort, to increase the, comfort level of your livestock, to ensure the most productive outcome from that asset, and creating a unified dairy ecosystem through a single barn operating system. So they have, leveraged their operations throughout the US, Canada, and Latin America, and the rest of the world. So you may have even seen some of these technologies, where you're watching this webinar from. And WaterTech, they're a leading supplier for greenhouse systems and technical turnkey designs in Western North America. They've been in operation since 1998, and they've expanded their operations into the United States. So they're really focused on, berry farming, dairy, greenhouse, but also industrial, ranch, and vegetable farming. And they have imported premium irrigation products, sort of implementing the best international technologies from Italy, Netherlands, France, Germany, China, India, and the United States, for their production. So one of their current projects includes a future life blueberry farm that is a 35-acre closed loop drainage, high efficiency drip irrigation, and an auto start drain pump generator. So really looking at, optimizing, the irrigation. It's not the old days of where we're going to water everything for this set amount of time. It really analyzes what each of those plants need, and it's really advanced, and it is much more precision in terms of agricultural and application. In food innovation, we've got some really exciting stuff that's happening as well in this area. Vitalis Nutrition, they were started as a small family-owned business doing specialty ingredients for large-scale processors. They've been a trusted Canadian supplier in specialty milk ingredients, and they source milk from the regional farms here because of the safety and how ethically produced the milk is in the Fraser Valley. They don't allow artificial growth hormones, which is allowed in some other countries. They're not permitted in Canada. And they have controlled measures to prevent antibiotics from entering the milk supply. So they're doing some really great stuff around milk production. Similarly, Vanderpool Eggs is doing the same thing with eggs. And this one was a great surprise to me when I arrived here, because I thought, well, egg technology is pretty straightforward. A chicken lays an egg, and then you collect that egg, and then you consume it. But they're doing a lot of things to make sure that the quality of eggs that are being produced and consumed are at a high level. So they've been doing, since 1952, they've been supplying processed eggs to Canada, the US, and Asia. So they do retail products, including liquid egg whites and ready-to-eat hard-boiled eggs. And a lot of technology is applied to make sure that the safety and the quality and the freshness of this food as they distribute domestically and internationally. And Frabie Gourmet is one of Canada's leading manufacturers of premium deli meats. They're based in Langley. They produce 120 varieties of sausage, ham, and specialty meats and sell them to international markets. They have a 118,000 square foot production facility, and they've acquired premium brands in Canada to further expand their production line. So they're doing some great stuff. And this sort of gives you an idea of some of the innovation that's taking place here around food. In terms of some of the things that are grown here, it's a really exciting variety of crops. I mean, I mentioned berries earlier, and we see them on the screen right now. BC Hop Company, is a relatively new industry for British Columbia, but they've been doing work in helping extractors and brewers achieve new levels of success in the quality and efficiency of the hops that are being used for beer and other products. So they're a new generation of Agritech company, driven by relentless commitment to quality and innovation, but they're community farmers that make it all happen. So, they're looking at, in addition to what they're doing presently with hops, they're also looking at extraction of industrial hemp and involved in a number of different things, and really diversifying their revenue stream from traditional farming. Riverside Cranberries is a multi-generational farming family that expanded their business from dairy and hogs to include cranberries in 2010. So they're really focused on sustainable farming, which is a big priority, particularly with stewardship of the land. And they're a member of Ocean Spray's Cranberry Cooperative. So you may have even had a drink of Fraser Valley cranberries if you ever had some Ocean Spray products. And Dreediger Farms in Langley, they have a family-run U-Pick farm that they've operated since 1964, which originally started with only strawberries, and now they've expanded to multi-berry varieties. But they first built their fresh plant in 2011 and a quick freezer facility to be able to take these products and be able to market and sell them globally. Around agricultural technologies, there's been a lot of work, and currently there's been a lot of government support for innovation in these areas. So I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about this. Eco-dairy has become a really unique opportunity. And as you can see on the slide in their window, they have the word tours. In addition to the innovation that they're doing from an agricultural perspective, they've really become a really good connection point for the urban community to understand agriculture and to recognize that the farming that we may have done a generation ago has changed significantly. So I think it's also helped to orient potential future workforce to recognize opportunities in the sector, and also to help to bridge the gap to understand what it looks like to be an innovative and sustainable dairy farm in the modern age, particularly as the public has a greater sense of food security and food awareness, nutritional ingredients. So you can go and you can see the robotic milkers in action. They have an interactive discovery center, and they even give patrons an opportunity to milk a cow if they've never had an opportunity to do that before. But they also have a lot of innovation stuff around how they are dealing with all of the elements that support their dairy crop. When you look at our land, even though we do have a very large inventory of agricultural land, when you start to talk about, traditionally the size of pasture you would need to graze a dairy herd, those 20 and 30 acre parcels of land are becoming harder to come by. So the eco-dairy has innovated by now doing vertical grass growing that they can now do internally. So there's a vertical grass grazing that's happening inside their barns, and it replaces the need for a 20 acre pasture for cows to graze. They're using an on-site anaerobic digester, so they're able to take the excessive waste from the cattle, the manure, and convert that into energy to then fuel the power for the farm. And they use a hydro-green irrigation system, so very precision instruments to determine the water levels needed to irrigate both their indoor and outdoor crops. Vancouver Freeze Dry is located in Langley, and it really speaks to how close we are to that major metropolis of Vancouver. That many Vancouver identified companies are actually based rurally in the Fraser Valley, and Vancouver Freeze Dry is one of them. They do 100% natural, healthy, and nourishing freeze-dried food and snacks, both for domestic distribution and export. They're headquartered here in the Fraser Valley, and they've been able to innovate in a way that their freeze-dried food is able to retain its nutrition, but also have a longer shelf life than traditional products that you've seen on the market. And then just to give you a little idea of some of the agricultural technologies that are in place, Signify in Langley, is an international brand formerly known as Philips. So you may recognize them, from various lighting products. They offer a commercial scale, high yield LED solution for floriculture, produce, vertical farming, and medicinal cannabis. Of course, with the legalization of cannabis in Canada over the last 2 years, you can imagine their business is booming. They really look at horticulture solutions for indoor agriculture of all varieties, and you really are able to take more traditionally perhaps industrial properties and be able to equip them for agricultural uses. Similarly, Bevo Farms, they're now a leading plant propagator with more than 60 acres of growing space. As you can see in this picture, they're able to work indoors, and so they have specialized teams that work over the crops on specialized covering machinery, so there's no need to do a walkthrough. So they have 60 acres of automated indoor farming. And Cubic Farms is another, recent entry into the sector. Cubic Farms was founded in 2015, and they have, been revolutionizing systems and automation on a commercial scale to do vertical farming that enables local food independence. And so you can take these units, at a smaller scale. They were invented after witnessing the devastation of hurricanes in Puerto Rico. And now they were able to take, this technology and create, straightforward, sustainable substitute for land-based crops to ensure that, food will be able to be produced, under any, climate circumstance. And they've had a strong international market, and their growth has been, by 3.9 million in new customers, ordering 42 modules of indoor growing technologies, in the last 3 years. So really a lot of, exciting stuff that's happening there. And we haven't talked a lot. I mean, most of what we've talked about today has been around, sort of the crops, but we've also got a lot of animal management research and implementation of that research that happens in the Fraser Valley as well. And so WestGen, is really a leader in cattle DNA research. They relocated to Abbotsford in 2016 to be closer to the heart of the British Columbia cattle industry. And they have a barn lab which houses Bovitech West. WestGen and other two partners sample over 300 dairy bulls globally a year and offer a lineup of dairy and beef genetics to ensure, the top quality and resilience of livestock around the world. And so they've produced more millionaire sires than any other AI organization in the world, which is pretty exciting. Canada Poultry Consultants, they've been in the industry since 1989, and they're providing advanced solutions and technical support to the poultry industry with a strong focus on preventative medicine, flock management, flock performance and welfare, and environmental sustainability, of chickens. So they serve all levels of the poultry industry, including hatcheries, farms, and processing plants, and leaders in integrated poultry health management and environmental stewardship, as they've been recognized with multiple awards. But, to cap that off, Abbotsford and the Fraser Valley is also home to the Agricultural Center of Excellence, which is, connected with the University of Fraser Valley as an interdisciplinary research center that focuses on the issues and challenges of agriculture and endeavors to support them. So it's an incredible resource for any farm-based agricultural industries, whether you're at the front end on the production, whether it's, with the product in the ground, or, later in the process now taking that raw product and turning it into a higher value commodity. So they partner with a diversity of researchers, industry leaders, and governments to build knowledge and tools for moving forward resilient food systems. So their research really operates under two themes: agriculture, technology and innovation, and food systems planning and policy. So tremendous both in application and advocacy for developers and companies in that space. Their demonstration barn that they have on site at their facility is a hub of best practices for student learning and offers farmers and business owners a pool of highly qualified, experientially trained and entrepreneurial graduates, to enter the workforce. So it's a great resource, when we talk about some of those workforce development issues and challenges that now you have, students that have been in these practical environments now coming out and able to be a greater asset to companies. But really, I think the message, for the Fraser Valley, for the delegates that are attending today, is that the Fraser Valley, when you take a look at the cluster that exists and some of the technologies and innovation that have already been embraced, we are open to looking at the future of food and how do we further innovate. There is both strong provincial and federal financial support that exists for developers in this segment. And there's grant programs for green initiatives, for agri-innovation, for food security that exist right now that are available and are very attractive for companies that have been looking for the opportunity to take their idea to concept and take it to market. With a greater understanding of the nature of the businesses that exist here in this cluster, you may have already be seeing some of the opportunities that may exist for your companies, either to fill a gap that you see exists, or to see a value chain opportunity in support of the existing companies that exist in the agricultural sector here in the Fraser Valley. And with that, I welcome the opportunity to continue the conversation and either to connect with myself or with my colleagues here in the Fraser Valley, where your project might best flourish. And with that, I will turn it over to any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Vern. Obrigada, Vern, pela excelente apresentação. Temos algumas perguntas aqui pelo chat que eu vou fazer para você. Primeira da Isadora Brunner. I would like to work in one only with vegetables. Let me see. I never worked in a farm before. I would like to work in one only with vegetables. The agriculture industry need or have space to people that have trial but not knowledge, specialty with these technologies.
Yeah, I think something that's been really exciting for us here in British Columbia is that we have had a lot of international interest, primarily from Mexico, for people to come into Canada seasonally and work in our agricultural sector. While we do have a strong livestock industry as well, really our strength is the food that we can grow in the ground. Our fruits and vegetables is a primary area, and there's a lot of interest in how do we innovate, either to take the vegetables that maybe traditionally had been considered waste because they weren't aesthetically pleasing to be in the supermarket. How do we now take those and make sure that it's not waste, that we can now take that carrot that has 3 stems and be able to innovate it and use it in a different food product, or make sure that it's given to local food banks or areas that would otherwise go without. So innovation in food area and also ensuring that we can create a longer shelf life for some of those perishable food items is a huge opportunity, definitely.
Perfect. Thanks, Vern. So we have another one here. Are the new technologies developed in Fraser Valley exportable? Are companies of the region open to partnerships? It's from Andrea.
Yes, I believe that a number of the companies are. When you think about, and I think specifically about, BW Global, they are already, a lot of their technology isn't used here at home in the Fraser Valley. This is just where they've set up their headquarters. A lot of their applications are international, so they're taking their greenhouse technology, and they are all over the world. And they're always coming up with new ideas. When I speak with them, they're saying, "Oh, we need to have a meeting and tell you about this next thing that we're working on that we're very excited about. That's going to take this technology we've been working on to the next level." I think that there's a great appetite, for agriculture. Some of the leaders that are in the poultry sector, in particular, are also their interest is to ensure that the world has access to this technology, because we take great pride in our role in ensuring that Canada can help feed the world, but that doesn't mean that all of that food is going to come from Canada. To share the technologies internationally, I would be glad to make some of those introductions.
Perfect. Thank you. We have one more here from Leonardo Almeida. So good afternoon. I'm a foreign chemical engineer graduate, and I don't really have much experience in the industry. Please, are there demand and opportunities for such professionals in events for a region? And if so, what are the best ways to apply?
I think that right now there are a number of companies that have told me that their challenge is because again we're rural and we're not in Toronto, Montreal, or Vancouver. We might not be as easy to find for those international experts that are looking at an opportunity to get into the industry in Canada. One of the companies right now in particular is Vitalis Group. And Vitalis is working, in the dairy sector and looking at a massive expansion. And they said to me very recently in a meeting, their challenge is not finding people to work in the entry-level jobs. Their challenge is finding people that are able to step into those six-figure positions that they have available, very senior roles. So I would be very, very open to making that introduction and seeing if there's a fit with Canadian companies that might be looking for your particular expertise.
Okay. So let me see. We have another one here from Graziele. Tudo bem? No caso, temos uma empresa no Brasil que trabalha com engenharia por encomenda, manutenção industrial. Fazemos manutenção em grandes companhias, sejam do setor alimentício, celulose ou petroquímica. Temos alguma oportunidade na região?
I'm sorry, that didn't translate.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, let me see what the translate. Okay, let me see another one. So another one from Wellington. What are the new main technologies used in the agriculture area?
I don't think we can narrow it down to just one. I know that there has been a focus on water technology and agrologist analysis, to prevent the overuse or misuse or waste of water has been one. There's also been other areas where automation of processes, particularly in dairy, has been a focus. But it's really a wide-ranging thing, not just in the food production, but also in food delivery. So now looking at venues like how do we take the traditional farm sale where a farm might produce the product, they cultivate it, they put it on their truck, and then they park beside a road and you buy it. How do we innovate with that to make that an easier process that can reach a wider audience? So doing more e-commerce around farm production, and taking all of these other types of service on demand models that we see, particularly in the hospitality sector. So companies like Skip the Dishes or Dine Dash, where you can sit in your home and order food for delivery from any restaurant, to now be able to do the same thing from an agricultural perspective and being able to buy those raw ingredients directly from the farmer. So I've bought this bag of potatoes. It was grown on that farm that's less than 50 kilometers from my home. The full chain of the lifespan of the food that you're consuming. And so there's a lot of things that are happening around that. And I would say, particularly for Canada, and this may be on your radar, you may have seen a lot of protests around our movement away from oil. The oil industry over the next 20 years. There's actually been a mandate by the province to identify that by 2040, all cars in the province of British Columbia will be electric. And so what are the applications of that from a farming perspective in terms of, electric powered tractors and farm implements? What does that look like into a variety of operations that now require rethinking now to ensure that we can adapt in step with provincial and federal mandates?
Great. Let's see, maybe the last question. Talking about animal production, the region have some expertise in that, or as you said before, only in plants?
I think, animal innovation it's also become, very hot button in terms of the public appetites for, animal product, but also their interest in ensuring animal welfare. So, ensuring that the care and concern, and I think that, was communicated, when I spoke about some of the things that are happening, both in environmental technologies, in the environments in which animals live, and also, the, genetics and, health and immunizations, while at the same time avoiding antibiotics in animals. I think that animal stewardship has never been more key, both in some of those traditional agriculture fields like, beef, dairy, poultry, pork. And then we also have, a number of fish farms as well, where we're doing on-land fish farming, and very, very high concerns around ensuring the health of fish and the reduction of potential contaminants and sea lice and those types of things.
Okay, so we have time for the last question. Let's see. How water management issues are treated in these technologies, and how water resource management, watershed approach is taken into consideration?
I think that I don't know of any development that is happening, and this is not regulated to just the agricultural sector. Any development that we're considering, whether it's residential, commercial, or industrial, that doesn't consider the impact on the watershed, the impact on the native species, proximity to creek beds and underground tributaries. So, water management is a very high priority for us. And even though, as you could see from the regional map earlier, we've got a lot of water coming down from the mountains and feeding some very strong rivers, consumable water and care for that water through the system where, humans are using it and then it gets regenerated back into the system is a very strong concern, particularly when we look at food production, which can often be a very water intensive industrial use, to ensure that we're going to be able to maintain the needs of the public and be able to maintain that water supply over the next 100 years. So it's being looked at not just at an industry level, but also at a municipal level. We've got a full department here that just deals with water management, what we're doing today, how we can be more efficient with our water management processes, and how do we move forward.
Great. So we have 1 minute left. I don't know if you want to make any consideration, any final consideration, please, now is the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that there's a lot of great questions that are popping up in the chat that we didn't have a time to get to today.
Yep.
And I certainly welcome anyone to reach out to me. My contact information was on the slide, but you can also get that from the fine folks at the Canada-Brazil Chamber of Commerce, who have been fantastic to work with throughout the process. So I welcome the opportunity to connect and to answer any of the questions that we didn't get to connect with, or to follow up on some of the questions that we did get to answer, but maybe require even more information.
Thank you so much, Vern. It was a pleasure having you here with us. We're going to, nós vamos disponibilizar o e-mail do Vern aqui no chat. Então, qualquer pergunta vocês podem fazer diretamente para ele. And thank you one more time. E agora, daqui a pouco, teremos o nosso próximo painel. Esperamos por todos vocês daqui a pouco. Thank you, Vern.
And if you do want to send that email in Portuguese, we can translate it on this side.